In this WrestleTalk news, WWE want FTR back, an AEW star is done with the promotion, why Bray Wyatt hasn't returned to wrestling, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos, where, if you're all really good and you subscribe, maybe, just maybe, we'll let Andy Datson come on this video right at the end and he can say something. But only if you subscribe, so you better do it now.
Support WrestleTalk!
Up until this past month, high-profile wrestling defections were all one way, with 2021 alone seeing Christian, Bryan Danielson, and Adam Cole intentionally leave WWE to join AEW. Add on to that the numerous wrestlers WWE fired that also went all elite, and CM Punk making his wrestling return after 7 years. WWE backstage never happened and I won't hear any other words about it! And the narrative was that while WWE might be the biggest game in town, it was no longer the best place to wrestle. WWE finally started to turn the tide last year, re-signing top stars that could have very easily jumped ship, like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and AJ Styles, who all have close ties to those running AEW. And then with Mania 38 at the start of this month, we got the biggest win for WWE so far, debuting a returning Cody Rhodes in a huge black eye for AEW, as he was one of the promotion's founders and co-executive vice presidents. And then they followed that up with something even more shocking. They actually booked him well, giving him an all-time great WrestleMania return and immediately making him the top star of Raw for the last 3 weeks. Uh-oh. 3 weeks? Well, guess we go back to Stardust on Monday then. Cody was always going to be a big strategic play for WWE beyond just the name value, as if they can prove that they can book defecting AEW stars at the top of the card, something they haven't been able to do with NXT, a promotion they actually own, then that would be the greatest advertisement for other All Elite wrestlers to entertain WWE talks when their contracts are up. There's already been reports that WWE is unsurprisingly interested in Wardlow, and MJF has frequently teased how much he'll play both sides off in contract negotiations when his expires in early 2024. And it's now being reported that WWE have another act in their sights. And funnily enough, they're also connected to the Pinnacle, current AAA and ROH Tag Team Champions, FTR. FTR made their AEW debut in May 2020 and apparently signed their multi-year contracts 2 months after in July. Fightful Select originally reported that those contracts were actually for 2 years and would be expiring in July this year, i.e. in about 2 to 3 months' time. Fightful updated shortly after, revealing that, like most AEW contracts, Tony Khan has the option to extend 2-year deals for an extra year, which he has done. This means that WWE won't be legally allowed to talk to them until May to July 2023. This could be why Dax Harwood tweeted last month that they would consider returning to WWE if the money and circumstances were right. Dave Meltzer may have alluded to this situation in a recent Wrestling Observer episode, where he said a lot of 2022's tag division in AEW will be about keeping FTR happy. And they've made a good start on this, giving them the ROH Tag Team titles and having them put on 2 Match of the Year candidates already. But wrestlers, like Janet Jackson, only seem to care about what have you done for me lately. The team left WWE in 2020 after being booked in a series of terrible comedy skits designed to bury them, because they wanted to actually wrestle. They were so unhappy in WWE that they reportedly turned down contracts worth $850,000 each. But perhaps Cody's return has convinced them that WWE have changed for the better. CM Punk, meanwhile, joked about the news on Instagram, posting a picture of Cash Wheeler at the gym captioned, "Hair's last day in the territory." Well, there's a fun fact for you today. Cash Wheeler's nickname is Hair. What do you think FTR should do when their contracts expire? Let me know in the comments down below while I hot tag to Ollie.
Here at WrestleTalk, we are super excited to announce our biggest offer ever! That's because for a limited time only, the digital edition of the critically acclaimed WrestleTalk magazine now costs just £1. £1! That's a massive 80% saving on its normal sale price. Really? Are you guys crazy, I hear you say? At that price, maybe we are. Or maybe it's just because we think it's so good. Once you've read a copy, you'll stay a reader of it 444 life. We're super proud of the WrestleTalk magazine and truly believe that it has some of the very best long-form wrestling content available anywhere on the planet. So if you want to be that person who always knows that little bit more than most about the inner workings of the business, or to find out the real news behind the news, buy the WrestleTalk magazine digital edition today for only £1. £1! Or just £10 for a 1-year digital subscription. Plus, each month, digital readers receive their copy 1 full week before anyone else in the world. Visit WrestleShop.com right now to get your copy. WrestleTalk magazine. You can always spot a reader.
While Tony Khan is picking up that extra year option for FTR, that isn't the case for some of the increasingly swole AEW roster. We've already seen how he let Cody Rhodes leave because apparently there was a growing rift between them. But for other wrestlers, Tony simply isn't renewing their contracts. Over the last 6 months, Big Swole, Brandy Rhodes and Lio Rush have all left the company due to their contracts expiring. It's also been reported that Marco Stunt's contract will not be extended. He's not been part of the Jurassic Express act in months, and Joey Janela revealed to Denise Salcedo that he won't be re-signing with AEW either. And now another AEW original has publicly tweeted that he's left the promotion, TH2's Jack Evans. My time with AEW has been fun and enjoyable, but it has come to an end as I will not be re-signed when my contract ends at the end of April. I'd like to thank everyone at AEW and the AEW fans for the opportunity. Evans was one of those original names signed to All Elite Wrestling, being announced on May 9th, just 4 months after AEW was announced, predating the Dynamite era of the promotion. Despite being regularly featured in the first year, as more and more teams have come in, he and his tag partner Angelico have found themselves mostly appearing on Dark and Dark Elevation. They were most recently factored into the Hardy Family Office faction, even doing a hair-shaving angle on Rampage, but they disappeared from their backstage segments months ago. TH2 have said in past interviews that while they love wrestling and are incredible at their unique high-flying technical mix, they struggle to come up with ideas for themselves to pitch to Tony Khan. This could be a reason why they quickly found themselves without much to do. It's currently unknown what's going to become of Angelico, who signed with AEW at a similar time. It must be noted though that these AEW departures aren't actually releases. Unlike WWE, the promotion is honoring the original agreed durations of the contracts. They're just not picking up new ones. The vast majority of cuts WWE made over the pandemic were done with years remaining on people's deals. AEW is a much fairer way of dealing with roster turnover, as the wrestlers can plan for when their time is up in advance. So fair, in fact, that Evans himself has defended AEW's decision on Twitter, replying to someone who called the situation heartless, "Nah, it is part of the business. Not to diss myself, but I wasn't giving any added value to the company, truthfully, and with a big roster, you do gotta make cuts." Evans, somehow despite his boyish good looks, is 40 years old, having a journeyman career that stretches back to the early 2000s Ring of Honor. And AEW is all about the youth, which might be why 73-year-old Ric Flair is training with Jay Lethal. Despite nearly dying just several years ago, Flair has posted a 1 minute and 20-second long highlight video of him and Lethal mostly shouting woos at each other while Jay Lethal sells. But also Ric Flair's running the ropes, locking on submissions, and even taking a bump. A video that got this response from his own daughter Charlotte Flair: "Dad, WTF? Can't believe she's stealing Ross Tweddell's gimmick." There were rumors that AEW was going to bring Flair in last August, potentially to manage Andrade, with it even being a storyline on BTE. This was apparently dropped following the accusations made in the Plane Ride from Hell episode of Dark Side of the Ring, something which was confirmed by Flair's former podcast co-host Mark Madden recently. Some people are almost immune from scandal though, as the only thing that really came from that controversy was Tommy Dreamer being cancelled for defending Flair, and even then he returned to Impact a month later. But where could Tony Khan's multiple boxes of Buzz Lightyears possibly wrestle in a giant super show? Thank you for your support on Patreon, Chris the Cypriot Sensation Patru, and LIW's American Muscle, Tyler Gamorla. You can get your own shout out in the WrestleTalk news by going to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Tony Khan has said on the My Mum's Basement podcast with Robbie Fox that he'd love to see Bryan Danielson and CM Punk wrestle in AEW, and also, at some point, have them return to Ring of Honor. But while he couldn't promise that, he did say, "I think there may come a day when it would make sense for all the stars of AEW and all the stars of Ring of Honor to kind of come together as one and have a big event." Thankfully, it seems Khan is already thinking about the women's division for his new promotion, as Maria Kanellis, who was heading up that area in Ring of Honor before the buyout, has told PW Ponderings that Khan has reached out to me and the two sides are trying to figure out a way to work with each other. Khan's increasing amount of projects, however, might be spreading his company's focus too thin, as Saturday's Battle of the Belts 2 special pulled in 527,000 viewers with a 0.18 rating. This is down 25 and 33% respectively from the first special in January, with both episodes featuring a similar strength of competition from the NFL and NBA. And there's only one way you could possibly solve this: turn the lights off and back on again for a big debut. No, not you, Satnam Singh. I'm talking about Bray Wyatt. Wyatt, now going by the name Wyndham Rotunda, was shockingly released by WWE at the end of last July. He shot a horror movie over the winter, made an appearance at WrestleCon over WrestleMania weekend earlier this month, and will be at For the Love of Wrestling in Liverpool next month. But other than a dismissed report back in September that he'd be debuting for AEW or Impact Wrestling imminently, there has been very little word on Rotunda's next in-ring wrestling move. And now we may know why. While talking about FTR possibly returning to WWE on Twitter, Dave Meltzer answered a fan question about Wyatt's situation, to which Big Dave replied, "His asking price is very high." Now you'd expect someone like Rotunda to very quickly make that money back in merchandise sales though, and he does seem open to a wrestling return, recently saying on Instagram he thinks about it often, but everything has to be in the right place. Like I said, timing is everything. Could that timing be exactly 1 year after his release? Because that's now only a few months away. Alright, now you've made it to the end of this video, so let me have a quick double check here, and oh, actually, yeah, no, because some of you did subscribe. Thank you very much for that. So we're going to give you a little reward now, because we do like to deliver on our promises here on the WrestleTalk News. Here's Andy Dadson, everyone. Hey, look, here he is. Thank you, Andy. Thank you for joining us. Say hello. Now, you're going to be doing Fan QuizzleMania tomorrow, right? And where can you find that? That's on patreon.com/WrestleTalk, right? Yeah. And what is Fan QuizzleMania? Because it's a bit like regular QuizzleMania, isn't it? But only you host it instead of Adam, which actually is a much better option, isn't it? Because you're better than Adam, right? Yeah, and was to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Yeah, that's great. So cool. You can go check out Andy on Fan QuizzleMania tomorrow on patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Yeah, good, cool. Thank you very much. You can jump up there. Thank you. We're all about giving the fans what they want, so you're welcome. Thanks, Andy. And thank you.
Not all groups can be thick as thieves, and a lot of the time in wrestling, it's easy to look at the police lineup of a great faction and pluck one dude or dudette out who just feels out of place. One of these wrestlers is not like the other. One of these wrestlers just doesn't belong. It's too many syllables. Yeah, we're picking on folks who didn't fit in today, kinda like a Canadian dude wearing a mask amongst a group of Brits that he's still never met.